Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of profound loneliness? A feeling that in the silent, star-dusted expanse we are utterly alone? But what if we aren't? What if, for millennia, something has been looking back? Have you ever heard about the Black Knight satellite? To the world's space agencies and mainstream science, the answer is simple. Some say it's just space junk, a collection of misidentified objects, a myth stitched together from unrelated events. Our orbit is cluttered with over 500,000 pieces of debris, spent rocket stages, defunct satellites, even tools dropped by astronauts. It's a cosmic junkyard. But others, well, they believe it's something far more profound. They believe it's an ancient alien probe, a sentinel of unknown origin, a silent guardian, or a silent warden, quietly orbiting Earth for thousands of years, watching our civilizations rise and fall, watching our wars, our triumphs, our first steps into space, watching us, maybe even waiting for something. NASA says it's debris, most famously identifying the most iconic image of the object as a lost thermal blanket from a space shuttle mission. A simple, mundane explanation for an extraordinary claim. But if you're willing to look past the official statements, if you dig deeper, you'll find a tangled web of strange sightings, anomalous signals, and cryptic government denials stretching back over a century. A story that suggests something has been up there long before we ever learned to leave the ground. To trace the origins of this legend, we have to rewind. The year is 1899. The world is on the cusp of a new century, powered by steam and electricity. In Colorado Springs, Nikola Tesla, a genius so far ahead of his time he was often mistaken for a madman, is conducting experiments that would define the modern world. In his lab, surrounded by crackling arcs of man-made lightning, he's building a massive magnifying transmitter to explore the potential of wireless power. During these experiments, he picks up weird, repeating radio signals. They are rhythmic, intelligent, a clear 1, 2, 3 pattern. At the time, Tesla is convinced they're from Mars. He speculates that an advanced civilization on the Red Planet is trying to communicate with Earth. The idea is sensational, but Tesla is adamant. Today, some conspiracy theorists have a different interpretation. They claim these weren't Martian signals at all. They believe Tesla was the first person to ever receive a transmission from the Black Knight itself, the Sentinel announcing its presence to a world not yet ready to understand. The trail goes quiet for a few decades, then picks up again. Fast forward to the 1920s and 30s, amateur radio operators in Norway, and later around the world, begin reporting a bizarre phenomenon known as long-delayed echoes, or LDEs. They would send out a standard shortwave radio signal. And then, anywhere from 3 to 15 seconds later, they would hear their own transmission bouncing back. This was deeply unsettling. A delay of that length meant the signal had traveled an immense distance, far beyond the moon and back. Nobody could explain it. The world's top physicists and engineers were stumped. The echoes were too long for any known atmospheric reflection. It was a genuine scientific mystery. Decades later, believers would connect the dots. They suggest the Black Knight satellite was catching these signals and deliberately retransmitting them back to their point of origin, another attempt to make contact. Then, in 1954, the story explodes into the mainstream. Newspapers like the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiner run with a shocking story. The U.S. Air Force has detected not one but 2 unknown satellites orbiting Earth. The report, attributed to a retired naval aviation major, caused a sensation. Remember, this is in 1954. This is 3 full years before the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first man-made satellite. At this time, humanity officially had nothing in orbit. So what were these objects? The Pentagon quickly downplayed the story. The mainstream explanation? Probably natural phenomena like meteors or clouds of debris. The story was quietly swept under the rug. But for believers in the growing mystery, it was another crucial piece of evidence. First the signals, now a visual confirmation. Something was out there, and the authorities seemed keen to deny it. Then, in 1960, another bombshell. A U.S. Navy tracking station detects a mysterious, dark, tumbling object in a near-polar orbit. This was highly unusual. A polar orbit which passes over both poles is ideal for mapping and surveillance, but it's technologically difficult to achieve. In 1960, neither the US nor the Soviets had publicly demonstrated this capability. The military eventually chalks it up to a lost casing from the Discoverer A8 satellite, a spy satellite that had gone astray. A plausible, if convenient, explanation. But for conspiracy fans, this was the moment the object got its name. Time magazine ran an article calling it a dark satellite, and the legend of the Black Knight only grew. The story takes another bizarre turn. Enter Duncan Lunan in 1973, a Scottish researcher who claims he's finally decoded the mystery of those old, long-delayed echoes from the 1920s. He analyzed the delay patterns and believed he'd found a message hidden within them. He says they contain a star map, pointing directly to the Epsilon Buddhist system, a double star about 200 light-years away, and the map came with a message from an alien civilization that had lived there, a message claiming their probe had been orbiting Earth for 13,000 years, a warning to a fledgling humanity. A few years later, Lunan publicly retracted his claim, admitting his methodology was flawed and unscientific. But it was too late. The conspiracy world had what it wanted: a name, an origin, and an age. The 13,000-year-old probe from Epsilon Buddhist was now a core part of the myth. Then comes the visual climax of the story. December 1998. NASA's Space Shuttle Endeavour is on mission STS-88, the very first mission to begin construction of the International Space Station. During an EVA, astronauts snap a series of stunning high-resolution photos of a strange, dark object floating nearby. NASA's explanation was swift and simple. An astronaut had accidentally lost a thermal blanket during the spacewalk. The object in the photos, they said, is that blanket. Case closed. But just look at the photos. For believers, this explanation is impossible. The object appears solid, structured, with a distinct, almost manufactured shape. It seems to hold its form as it tumbles through the vacuum. A thermal blanket is essentially high-tech foil. It's flimsy. It should be crumpled, shapeless, glinting in the sun. Does that look like a blanket to you? For many, these photos are the smoking gun. So let's piece together the narrative that the true believers have constructed from these disparate events. First, the Black Knight is in a polar orbit, a perfect vantage point for global observation, and one that was technologically impossible for humans when it was first allegedly spotted. Second, its age. It might be thousands, maybe even 13,000 years old, a number that eerily coincides with the end of the last ice age and a period of great cataclysm and change on Earth. Some say it's an alien surveillance device, made of unknown materials that allow it to survive for eons in the harsh environment of space. It doesn't communicate, it doesn't interfere, it just watches. Is it a probe, a warning signal, a relic from a lost human civilization like Atlantis? Or is the entire alien story just a clever smokescreen for a top-secret government cover-up of a terrestrial spy satellite? The theories go wild. One of the most popular is that it's a Bracewell probe, a theoretical autonomous device sent by an ancient civilization to seek out and monitor emerging intelligent life. It waits patiently until the target species, us, achieves spaceflight, and then begins to reveal itself. Or perhaps it's linked to lost human societies that vanished long ago. Could a prehistoric, technologically advanced civilization have launched it before a global catastrophe wiped them from the history books? Or maybe, just maybe, the most chilling theory is true. That NASA and other world governments know exactly what it is, but actively hide the truth behind mundane explanations like thermal blankets and space junk, fearing the societal collapse that would follow the revelation that we are, and have always been, under observation. Of course, for every piece of the legend, the scientific community has a rational, grounded explanation. NASA's official position is simple. Nothing to see here. It's all a classic case of connecting unrelated dots. It's all explainable. Spy satellite debris from the dawn of the space age, lost equipment from shuttle missions, and natural radio phenomena that were poorly understood a century ago. Scientists point out that objects in space, photographed with long lenses against the blackness, look weird in photos all the time due to lighting and perspective, and that long-delayed echoes can be plausibly explained by signals traveling in a plasma duct in the ionosphere, or even making a round trip around the moon. But let's be real. The rumors stick around for a reason. The official explanations, while plausible, feel unsatisfying. They lack the grandeur of the myth. Those eerie photos from 1998, no matter how many times you hear thermal blanket, the image of that strange dark craft is hard to forget. The story is a perfect storm of mystery. It stretches from the Victorian-era genius of Tesla's lab through the paranoia of the Cold War, right up to today's internet-fueled speculation where a single photo can spawn 1,000 theories. And honestly, who doesn't love the idea of ancient aliens keeping tabs on us? It's a story that speaks to our deepest hopes and fears about our place in the cosmos. Because of this, the Black Knight has become a staple of modern mythology. It pops up everywhere, from TV shows like Ancient Aliens and Stargate to video games, to the countless late-night YouTube rabbit holes that have introduced the legend to a new generation. So what happens now? As private space companies like SpaceX or Blue Origin continue to fill the sky with new satellites and missions, our ability to monitor near-Earth space is increasing exponentially. Maybe one of these companies, free from government oversight, will finally get a definitive close-up shot, or even attempt to retrieve the thing and bring it down to Earth. Until that day, the legend endures. Whether it's an alien sentinel, a time capsule from a lost civilization, or just a collection of coincidences and a lost blanket, the Black Knight satellite refuses to die. It remains one of the oldest, weirdest, and most compelling space mysteries out there, a dark mirror reflecting our own hopes and anxieties about the great unknown. And if it really is watching us, if after all this time the believers are right, you have to ask yourself two questions: who put it there, and what on earth are they waiting for?
Into Mike, Deadpan. That was Whispers in Static by Saint Hollow. Up next,